This video is an updated version of a series originally made in 3 separate videos on the modern history of American Airlines. The video series takes a look at the rise of American West Airlines, its eventual merger with US Airways, and finally US Airways taking over the iconic American Airlines and turning itself into the world's largest airline. The story is a fascinating rise of a small regional airline to a global powerhouse under the direction of former CEO Doug Parker. Before we dive in, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe to the Archive of Everything for more great content like this. Our story begins on August 1st, 1983. American West launches its service with 3 leased Boeing 737s flying out of Phoenix Sky Harbor. The airline grew rapidly, and within a year, the fleet had grown to 21 aircraft flying to 23 different cities.
Sevens.
America West, what we serve is you.
Within another 3 years, the airline opened its second hub in Las Vegas. Early on, the airline was open to trying new and unorthodox ideas. In these early years, American West allowed passengers to purchase tickets on board the aircraft, something completely unimaginable today.
Low-fare jet travel isn't the same anymore.
My assigned seat. This is a low-fare airline?
It's complimentary.
This is a low-fare airline?
The airline also trained employees with cross-utilization skills, such as pilots dispatching airplanes and baggage handlers who could also act as gate agents. The airline forced new employees to invest 20% of their salary in the company's stock, which allowed American West to have a constant supply of cash coming in. The airline continued to grow rapidly, but by 1986 was on the verge of bankruptcy. The company slowed its aggressive expansion plan in order to survive. By 1990, American West had reached annual revenue of $1 billion, which allowed the US government to categorize it as a major airline. This didn't stop American West from declaring bankruptcy in 1991. During this time, the fleet shrank and flight attendants unionized, ending the previously mentioned cross-utilization strategy. In 1994, American West emerged from bankruptcy after cash investments from Mesa Airlines and Continental Airlines, which resulted in code-sharing agreements with the two. Other investors in the reorganized airline included Dial Soap Corporation and the Phoenix Suns, who also would rename their basketball arena American West Arena. Other changes to refresh the brand include the now iconic green livery, which was adopted at this time, which replaced a previous outdated yellow and red used by the airline since its early days. This unique livery helped the airline stand out against the competition. These changes would help the airline gain its reputation as being different and innovative, something it had lost in previous years. This new attitude that the airline had would carry out through the rest of the 1990s, with aggressive expansion continuing. This expansion peaked in 2000 when American West had 860 daily departures from Las Vegas, Phoenix, as well as a new hub in Columbus, Ohio, which they had established in an attempt to gain a foothold on the East Coast. This East Coast foothold would never come to fruition, as the airline would hope, and the Columbus hub closed in 2003. The airline would have to devise a new strategy to feed their appetite for aggressive expansion. This new strategy would be a merger. American West Holdings Corporation set their sights on the bankrupt US Airways in the second quarter of 2005. US Airways had a strong hub network on the East Coast and good brand awareness amongst consumers, something American West still lacked. American West Holdings performed a structured reverse merger, taking on the US Airways name. This sounds like the end of the line for the American West Airlines brand, but in reality, it's only the beginning. Since this was a reverse merger, American West executives could make any and all decisions for the new company, and they did. The new US Airways would use American West's old reservation system, the old call sign Cactus, and it would even be headquartered at American West's former Phoenix HQ. When American West merged with US Airways, it was more of a takeover. US Airways was bankrupt and on the verge of total collapse. America West was an up-and-coming regional airline that had its sights set on a nationwide expansion. Market studies showed that the US Airways brand was more recognizable than the America West brand, so the new airline decided to be called US Airways, and America West was officially retired. Some parts of America West lived on in the new airline, with the call sign used being Cactus, and the identifier AWE, or America West, also being used for all US Airways flights. By May of 2006, both the airlines' websites were merged, and an order for 20 new Airbus A350 aircraft was put in place. But this was only the beginning of the expansion years. Just 1 year after America West and US Airways merged, the now US Airways attempted to do it again. At the end of 2006, US Airways launched a hostile takeover attempt on the major US carrier Delta Airlines. US Airways bid $10 billion for control of Delta. Delta's senior management fought hard against the merger, and it was called off on January 31st, 2007. With the failed merger with Delta now in the past, the company looked to improve its service and systems, with the old Sabre reservation system retired and America West's former Quick system put into place. The FAA certificates were also merged on September 25th, 2007, finally making the merger truly complete. Whereas America West had a reputation for quality and friendly service, the new US Airways did not. The airline ranked last in many surveys in the late 2000s, and for a time even stopped serving complimentary drinks. On-time percentages dropped, and the Pittsburgh hub was closed. To top off their service troubles, the pilots' union was causing internal conflict, further distracting leadership from improving the overall terrible service. After another failed merger attempt, this time with United Airlines, US Airways closed its Las Vegas hub. This Las Vegas hub had been an essential part of America West's early growth. These were truly dark times for the airline. January 15th, 2009 started off like any other day, with passengers boarding their flight, not knowing that they were about to experience one of the most famous modern US air disasters. A US Airways Airbus A320, registered as N106US, took off from LaGuardia Airport before striking birds immediately after takeoff. Through heroic actions and efforts by the pilot Chelsea Sullenberger and his co-pilot, they were able to ditch their jet in the Hudson River, saving all 150 passengers and 5 crew members. The image would become iconic, with the US Airways name and logo clearly visible on the sinking aircraft. The miracle on the Hudson marks a turning point for the post-merger US Airways. The airline finally started to look like its old America West self. Beginning in early 2010, US Airways started a new mission to streamline its operations in order to improve quality and service, something that had been lost in recent years. The airline continued to close or reduce services by closing its Las Vegas, Boston, and New York LaGuardia focus cities. US Airways, in what's becoming almost a running gag, attempted another merger with a US airline. This time it was with a familiar partner, United. These discussions progressed to very advanced stages before United called off the merger, only to merge with Continental Airlines later that year. Perhaps it was being distracted by a near-constant merger talks that made the airline again lose focus on its commitment to quality and its customers. Throughout the early 2010s, the airline continued to be ranked last or near the bottom on major surveys of the industry. US Airways was even voted as the 6th most hated company in America by Business Insider. The airline had to do something to save its image and reputation, and as usual, management decided the best way to do this would be through a merger. This one would actually prove to be successful. In January of 2012, American Airlines was bankrupt and on the verge of its own collapse. Its CEO, Tom Horton, expressed interest in a merger to save the company, so US Airways stepped up to the plate. Through a year of negotiations, the merger was approved, and on February 14, 2013, it was announced that they would merge to become the largest airline in the world. The globally recognizable American Airlines name would be kept, although its entire brand was scrapped and refreshed to make it better reflect this new global powerhouse. Doug Parker, the former America West CEO, would become the new CEO of American Airlines. The man who had started at the little airline that could was now the leader of the largest airline in the world. The Cactus call sign was retained for 2 years until being retired on April 8, 2015. The final flight with US Airways branding took place on October 17, 2015. The flight took off as US Airways Flight 1939, the year the company was founded, and landed as American Airlines Flight 1939. This was the end of the tumultuous decade for US Airways. From the highs of the Miracle on the Hudson to the lows of being voted the worst airline in the country, it was truly a journey. In the end, American Airlines chose to remain headquartered in Fort Worth. The former America West and US Airways headquarters in Phoenix was closed and sold off. Although the merger of US Airways and American Airlines took place in 2013, we're going to go back a few years in time to understand how American Airlines went from iconic to bankrupt. The year is 2010. American Airlines has a complicated structure of hubs, destinations, and a regional airline, American Eagle. In an effort to streamline their operations and save cash, American attempted to spin off American Eagle, although in the end this did not work. With the spin-off of American Eagle now out of the question, American set its sights on creating new partnerships to strengthen its weakening brand. The company created partnerships with Iberia, British Airways, and the US carrier JetBlue in an attempt to increase traffic in the Northeast United States and Europe. American also won and bid for slots at the new Tokyo Haneda Airport. This Tokyo route would prove to be a massive money loser for American and was almost immediately closed. In yet another move of aggressive expansion, American placed the largest aircraft order in history for 460 Boeing 737 and Airbus A320 aircraft. These were set to be delivered throughout the mid to late 2010s to modernize and simplify the aging medium-haul fleet. The move would prove, ultimately, to be a disaster. On November 29, 2011, AMR Corporation, the parent of American Airlines, filed for bankruptcy. The move came as no surprise, as the company had been spending aggressively on expansion, partnerships, routes, and fleet upgrades that failed to pan out. As a result of the bankruptcy, American cut capacity, routes, and even made its regional arm, American Eagle, retire 40 jets in an effort to cut costs. Leadership at American knew the only way to survive was with a cash infusion from a merger after executives had emptied the corporate piggy bank. Those American considered merging with included JetBlue, Alaska Airlines, Frontier Airlines, Virgin America, and finally US Airways. Only one of these would pan out, and with the merger of US Airways and American Airlines, discussions would begin on August 31, 2012. The merger would prove to be successful, and the new airline with refreshed branding and logos was introduced on January 17, 2013. The merger was finalized on February 14, 2013, with Doug Parker, the former America West and US Airways CEO, taking over from former American CEO Tom Horton. Even though the merger was needed to save American, the U.S. Department of Justice sued to block the merger on the grounds that it would create a lack of competition in the airline industry. With the merger, the three major American airlines, United, Delta, and American, would control 75% of the market. Company leadership negotiated with the U.S. government, promising to keep prices low and sell off gates to competitors. With these concessions, the merger was finally approved on December 9, 2013. The US Airways brand was retired on October 17, 2015, with all flights switching over to the new scheme unveiled in 2013. The new American Airlines would continue to focus on international expansion, and in 2018 added routes to Europe while eliminating many of its unprofitable Asia routes. The strategy would prove to be successful, with American adding even more Eastern European routes out of its historic Chicago hub. Things were looking up for American and the rest of the industry as a whole, that is, until the spring of 2020. Coronavirus had swept across the world. As world governments tried to stop the spread, they banned travel and warned the public to stay indoors. Having travel drop to near zero decimated the airline industry, with massive losses being reported across the board. In May of 2020, American announced it would cut 30% of its management and administrative staff in a desperate bid to save money and cut costs amid the crisis. With a 90% reduction in Q2 revenue, rumors begin swirling of another bankruptcy. American Airlines was able to survive the COVID pandemic with the help of a $5.8 billion bailout from the US government. As travel picked up, the industry stabilized once again, but American would soon have to face a future without its iconic leader. On December 7th, 2021, the company announced Doug Parker would be retiring after his decades in the industry. He would be replaced by longtime company executive and another America West alum named Robert Isom. Parker would remain chairman of the airline until retiring altogether from the company in 2023. The future of American Airlines looks bright with a strong network, modern fleet, and experienced leadership ready to take on a post-COVID world. Only time will tell what comes next for the historic airline, but what I do know is America West, US Airlines, and American Airlines are now a part of the archive of everything. Leave a comment with future video ideas, a like if you feel so inclined, subscribe, and as always, this is Matt from the archive of everything, and I'll see you all real soon.